Training camp is in full swing for your Seattle Seahawks, and in just a few weeks from right now, we're going to see the roster go from 90 down to 53, and that could also be done not just by traditional cuts, but by trades as well. Who are some potential surprise trade and cut candidates for your Seattle Seahawks? We'll go over 5 names, we'll crunch the numbers for you, and I'll give you my verdict on what I would do with each individual coming up here on this edition of Seattle Seahawks Today. Tyler Jones, your fearless leader, here with you. Thanks for joining us. We got new people joining us all the time here on the channel, and I need to know where you guys are watching from. If you're a Seahawks fan from the great state of Washington, like today's video. If you are watching from somewhere else, whether it's within the Pacific Northwest, the United States, or around the world, comment and tell me where you are watching today's show from. Let us know, and we'll get started with this edition of Seattle Seahawks Today. All right, let me make one thing very clear. I always have to say this every damn time we do these trade and cut candidate segments. Just because we have a player listed does not mean we are suggesting that they should be cut or traded. That's where the verdict part comes in, where I tell you what I would do. So don't come after me just for having these players listed. If you want to debate me about my decisions of what I do, I'm all ears. But let's go ahead and get started with none other than Kenneth Walker III at the running back position. Kenneth Walker III, it has been an interesting tenure for him in Seattle for the former second-round pick out of Michigan State. And if he is moved, there is a potential cap savings of close to $2 million, 1.85 to be exact. And you look at Kenneth Walker, it's twofold, right? Has he underperformed? Has he struggled to stay healthy? Both of those things are true. But on the flip side, how much of it has to do with the offensive line as well and the problems that the O-line has gone through? What I don't know with K9 is how good he actually is, in all honesty, because I don't know how much has to do with the offensive line compared to his own talent level. And that's a bit concerning that here we are entering year 4, and we just don't know at this juncture what K9 actually is at this point in his career, coming off the worst season he's had at 3.7 yards per carry. That was not good at all from Kenneth Walker last year. That was a doom, as some would say. All right, so with that said, too, he's entering the final year of his rookie contract. You had plenty of good backs. Zach Charbonnet, Kenny McIntosh, Damian Martinez. I can't seem to think that they're going to keep both Walker and Charbonnet long-term. So are you better off potentially trading him now? You're not going to cut him. Are you better off trading him and getting something for him and rolling with Zach Charbonnet? Personally, I would keep him. I would not trade or cut Kenneth Walker III because his trade market's not going to be that great. You're going to get a late day 3 pick, and you're only going to make yourself worse at that position. You're not getting back what you paid for a former second-round pick. So that's not ideal as far as that goes. So I would personally keep Kenneth Walker III. As I've said previously, when it comes to K9 and Zach Charbonnet both, I wouldn't extend either one of them long-term. Maybe potentially a short-term 1 or 2 year deal, but your best bet, especially now that you move into a run-heavy offense, is to run both these guys into the ground and get every ounce of final energy you can, and then potentially move on from them down the line. So I would keep Kenneth Walker III, run him into the ground, and then let him walk in free agency at some point, whether it's next offseason or the year after, and go from there. What do you think? Your chance to be the GM here on Seahawks Today. Should Seattle trade Kenneth Walker III? You might get an ad break while the ad's playing. Get your votes in. T for trade, K for keep. Weigh in, let me know. Up next, we find Drew Lock at the quarterback position. He hasn't been here too long, but his days might already be numbered, and that is largely dependent on how quickly Jalen Milroe develops. All right? Now, if you move on from Drew Lock, you're looking at a cap savings of about $1.75 million. It's not a ton of money that you would save, but the most important thing that you could save by moving on from Drew Lock is the roster spot. Because here's the bottom line. All right? You are not, under any circumstance, moving on from Jalen Milroe. He could look awful in training camp and in the preseason. Just as an example, let's say that happens. Well, he's still a third-round pick. You've invested way too much to move on from him, okay? So if that scenario happens, then I think you roll with the three quarterbacks. But if Jalen Milroe shows you something where you believe that he's capable of being your QB2, then you can move Drew and save that roster spot. Because traditionally speaking, we don't see the Seahawks carry more than two quarterbacks. That's hardly ever happened in the John Schneider era. So I'm optimistic about Jalen Milroe. I think Drew's a very good backup. Don't get me wrong, but I'd rather save the roster spot and use it on something else. If it's my call, I'm cutting Drew Lock. It's not personal. It's just business. And I don't want to carry more than two quarterbacks on the active roster if that's my decision. So, sorry, Drew. Everybody wave goodbye. Folks, I want to make sure you're subscribed to Seattle Seahawks Today as we bring you daily news and rumors. Live shows 3 days a week, Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays. We also have our Madden Sims. Getting close to the end on that season. We have breaking news, Q&A mailbags, and more. It's your one-stop shop for all things Seattle Seahawks. Your training camp headquarters is right here on Seattle Seahawks Today. Subscribe now for free. Turn on notifications so you never miss a moment. Let's get at least 20 subs off today's video, why don't you? YouTube.com/SeahawksTV to subscribe now. You'll be glad you did. I have an insane deal, my friends. This Seahawks hoodie that you're seeing on your screen here. This cutoff hoodie, like a Bill Belichick hoodie of sorts. It was $55 at one point in time. Now it's only $33. How about that, my friends? And you can get one too. Be looking like Seahawk Belichick or something. Maybe you're going to land a 24-year-old in the process too. Chatsports.com/Seahawks sale is where you can get these now. All sorts of different shapes and sizes available to your liking. We also have other Seahawks merchandise at that same link, chatsports.com/Seahawks sale. Link is in the comments and description of today's video. That's chatsports.com/Seahawks sale to get yours today. Next up, we find Marquez Valdes-Scantling, a.k.a. MVS, in our Madden Sims. He has been quite the Madden merchant, I'd say. If you move on from MVS, you can save about $2.5 million. Now, let me go over my list of grievances on MVS. And I find myself telling this story because people need to be reminded of it. They're always asking, Tyler, why don't you like MVS? What's your problems with MVS? And I tell this story, it feels like every 5 or 6 weeks, but people seem to forget. So let's go over it one more time, shall we? For the kids at home watching. Hi, Billy. Here's what you need to know, the short history on MVS. Billy, are you listening? Okay, great. All right, Billy, here's what happened. MVS goes from the Green Bay Packers to the Kansas City Chiefs. They have a weak receiving core. Tyreek Hill's gone. They need an explosive threat. MVS, after 2 years, they're like, nah, this ain't working. Even though our receiving core sucks, we're better off without MVS. You're cut. You're out of here. He goes to Buffalo. Buffalo Bills, not a great receiving core after they spent all this money on Josh Allen and things. And he didn't even make it through the season. And they said, you're out. You're gone. 2 elite organizations, okay, that needed receiver help. And each of them thought they were better without MVS. All right? So that's not good for him. Now, he did do well in New Orleans last year, relatively speaking, in Clint Kubiak's offense, might I add. And that's what led him to getting this contract with Seattle. I say that all to say, though, plot twist. I'm actually keeping MVS. Let me explain why. The reality is, right now, you don't have too many better options than MVS with what you've done at the wide receiver position. Torrey Horton's a rookie. I hope Torrey Horton passes up MVS on the depth chart. But even if he does, then MVS is still by far your 4th best receiver. I'll take him over Jake Bobo and Steven Sims and those guys. So I don't see him going anywhere. Now, if you make a trade for a big-name receiver, maybe that potentially changes things, and MVS could be involved in a trade package or something like that. But I don't see him going anywhere. As much as I have personal issues with MVS, as I explained in great detail a moment ago, I would keep him at least for now. But he's not a part of your long-term future. That's for damn sure. Name a player the Seahawks should keep. We've gone over a few names. Now we want to hear from you. Way in the comments section, give me a name that you would like to see remain in Seattle. Last on our list, a lot of people are talking about this. Moving on from Riq Woolen. Yes, you heard that right. Riq Woolen entering his 4th season in Seattle. The former 5th-round pick out of UTSA was a Pro Bowler as a rookie and was outstanding. Led the league in interceptions, the co-leader his rookie year. And things have been kind of up and down for him ever since. He struggled with tackling at times. He gets beat a lot, but he does create turnovers. And this is a make-or-break year for him as he tries to get that long-term contract extension. If you were to move on, the most money that you can save from departing from Riq Woolen is about $5.34 million. And he's coming off a season last year where he had about 3 interceptions, 14 pass breakups, 46 tackles, 1 forced fumble. From what we've heard, he is in the good graces of Mike Macdonald for now. They seem to be optimistic about Riq Woolen. They did not move him at this point. They could have moved him a long time ago. They could have, if they felt like they had a better option at the corner spot, replaced him with something else, but they didn't. And for me, I know some people were talking about trading him and that they would not want to pay him a long-term deal, but I would keep Riq Woolen for now. And then we fast forward to next offseason. That's when I make a decision on Riq. If Riq looks really good, I have no problem extending him. But if he struggles and has issues, then maybe it's time to move on. But I don't think you have to make that decision now. I think based on the circumstance you find yourself in, you are best off holding the line and seeing what you have with Riq Woolen for now and keep him for this year. If you enjoyed today's show, hit that like button. We certainly would appreciate it if you did so. I'm Tyler Jones. Thanks for stopping by, and we will see you next time right here on Seattle Seahawks Today. So long.